Okay, welcome back to the Chef Share video series. Today we're going to be doing butcher's yielding, and it's a little bit different from the yield we've done earlier on produce. Today we're going to be doing butcher's yield on a whole chicken, and we're also going to be doing it on a strip loin. The first thing we need to do is get a weight for our chicken. And what is the per pound price on this?
Per pound price, we're looking at $1.29.
$1.29 a pound on this. So it's really important to know how much you're paying for the entire product. So our weight on that guy is 2.05 pounds. So right at 2 pounds. Okay, so and we're going to keep our scale here to weigh the parts as we take them off. Now I'm not going to do the standard EPCC fabrication, the ACF fabrication, because this is more of a production view. So what I'm going to do is do 2 airline breasts. Now this chicken has some defects on the skin towards the back, so I'm going to trim that up right now, and that is going to go into the unusable scrap pile. And there's a little tear on the breast here. So this is not an ideal chicken, but for the purposes of a butcher's yielding demonstration, it'll be fine. Also, this is not a demonstration of chicken fabrication, but we're going to go through some of the same process. Okay, now that we've got our chicken fabricated down into our 2 airline breasts, 2 leg and thigh quarters, remember we left those whole. We've got 2 tenderloins, we've got a little pile of unusable scrap here, and then we've also got bones and wingtips. So we're going to go ahead and start weighing this, and we'll start from the front, and we'll do the bones and wingtips. And we have a total weight on this of 9.4 ounces. On the unusable scrap. Now we could render this down for chicken fat, but we really don't need to for the purposes of this video. So the unusable scrap is 3.3 ounces. The leg and thigh quarters together weigh 11.7. The tenderloins are going to weigh 1.7, and our 2 airline breasts are going to weigh 10.2 ounces. Okay, so now we have our total weights of all of our fabricated products, and Chef Diaz is going to go through the steps of the math with you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into the calculation part of the yield process. Rosser went ahead and went over the actual fabrication, okay, which was a quick run through to show you how to fabricate. Get your 2 airline breasts is what we're working with. If you're not using that, you might be getting into a Supreme, which has no skin, etc. Okay, but before getting into this, we want to talk about the price. The total price for the whole as purchased, meaning you go to the store, Walmart, whatever it might be. For us, we get it from Cisco, Shamrock. The whole as purchased chicken itself was $1.29 a pound. Okay, but we want to go ahead and break it down, which is what Rosser did. We have our weights, and now, where did we get these prices? Okay, when you talk about, you want to go ahead and get market prices for each and every one of these. So when you go to the store, you might see whole chicken $1.29. Okay, well, you know what? I don't want a whole chicken. I'm scared to go ahead and fabricate because I don't know what to do with the carcass. Well, and then you might be saving money, you might not, depending on your fabrication skills, which is why you need to get those in line for the, of course, culinary students. But you see leg and thighs. Look at the price, 106 as opposed to tenderloins. Tenderloin meaning it's tender. Okay, there's a huge, even though you only get 2 per chicken, small pieces, there's a huge demand for them. Okay, that's why you have $3.29 as opposed to leg and thighs, you know, being at $1.06 per pound. All right, so we have our from left to right, whole as purchased, airline, which we have 2, leg and thighs, we have 2. We have our bones along with the wishbone and our wings that were fabricated to make our airlines, which are the wingtips, unusable scraps, and our tenderloins, 2 of them. Okay, we have our pound, 205 per pound, but look, we're going into ounces. Okay, you can have a percentage per pound. Okay, but we're not trying to confuse you guys at this point, so we're just going to go ahead and keep the ounce. When you're doing this, make sure, even though you're going from pounds to ounce, it should line up on both sides. 205 per 2.05 pounds, excuse me, at $1.29. What we need to find is our airline. That we don't have. Okay, you try going to the store, you won't find an airline breast. If you ask them for something, you have chicken airline breast, they might look at you funny. Okay, but we're gonna find that price. Our leg and thighs. We have an ounce and we have pounds. We have ounce, we have pounds. What do? To get this out of the way, unusable scraps, that itself, we don't need to find a price for, okay? We're not using it, it's getting tossed. But in the end, you're gonna see how we're gonna go ahead and compensate for this unusable scrap. What you wanna do is you always wanna break it down to the ounce. Students that are doing your cost cards, we have $1.06 per pound. We wanna break that down to the ounce. In this case, your leg and thighs would be 7 cents. You're gonna go ahead and please remember this, and I'll write it down a little bit. A times B equals C. A meaning your weight, B meaning price per pound, and equals C. Okay? If we don't have this, which we're going to talk about a little bit, there's another formula for that. Super easy, still dealing with their EPCs. Okay? So our 99 cents ends up equaling 9 cents a pound. 6 cents a pound. And our 3.29 boils down to 21 cents a pound. Okay? So 205 multiply times 129 gives us 265. Okay? So we know that total for that whole chicken, even though it was 129 a pound, sounds great, but you're really paying 265 because that whole chicken doesn't weigh 1 pound, it weighs 2.05, etc. 11.7 times 106 gives you 78 cents a pound. 9.4 times 99 cents gives you 58, and then your 1.7 times 3.29 gives you 35 cents. What we want to do next is go ahead and find, our cells if we're using Excel, of course. Okay. What we're going to do is get 78 cents plus 58 cents plus 39 cents, and I'm using my handy dandy calculator, as Rosser likes it. $0.94 is what it's going to cost for the airline price. Now what we need to do is find this price. What was the price per pound? How do we do that? Remember, A times B equals C. What you can do, like I tell all the students, if you're going to use numbers and dollar signs, you always want to use those first so you don't get confused. Well, maybe I divide 10.2 ounces by 94. No. We're always talking about price. That's the whole thing about a butcher's yield. It's not just the weight, but it's the price. That's the number one thing. If you want to calculate your menu, you got to do it properly. Break it down with the price. So we're going to get in this case, C divided by A equals B. We have our C up here, 94. Divide that by our 10.2 gives us 9 cents. Are we done? No. That sounds really low, okay? Something you do not, if you find chicken airline breast for 9 cents a pound, I would probably run it, okay? I wouldn't purchase it for one. Alert the manager, whoever it might be. So what are we gonna do? Like I told you guys, we have per ounce, we have per pound. This is per ounce, we're trying to get this per pound. What we had was 9 cents. 9 cents was actually per the ounce. When we multiply, divide 94 into 10.2, that gives us 9 cents. Now we gotta multiply it by how many ounces in a pound. That's 16. When we do that, we end up with a total number. Let me just double check my calculation to make sure I'm correct. It was up by 4 cents. Okay, so you always want to double check yourself. Okay, you think you're right? Great, check yourself again, okay? Because everybody makes mistakes. All right, and there we go. We have our price per pound for the chicken. Now we can go ahead per pound. We can go ahead and establish our menu price. Okay, so if you're wanting to do this, $1.44 a pound. Let's say your chicken breast, it is a pound, or if it's not, it's 8 ounces. Divide that by 2. Either way, you want a 30%, which is standard food cost. Divide that by 0.3, and there you go. That would give you a rough estimate of what you should charge for that one airline breast. But remember, take into consideration, you have your Q factor, you have your spice factor, you have everything else along with it. You're going to dredge it in flour, you're going to stuff it like a 1309 restaurant, etc. Okay? Now we're going to move forward and talk about our strip loin breakdown.
Next piece we're going to fabricate for a butcher's yield is going to be this New York strip loin, and our total weight out of the package is 10.9 pounds, 10.09 pounds. So the next thing we're going to do is fabricate this down into the steaks, the pave steaks for $13.09. And we're going to have a few categories of items to come off of this. Obviously the usable product, which is going to be the pave steaks. We're going to have fat, we're going to have unusable trim, and then we're going to have usable trim. So those are our 4 categories for the strip loin. I'm going to go ahead and fabricate this down, and then we'll come back and do the math. Okay, so here we have that strip loin that we were looking at earlier, and it's been fabricated, but I reconstructed it so that you can see the process of how this goes without having this video be an hour long. So this large fat cap on the top, which has connective tissue underneath, we're going to take all of that off, right? And that is going to go into the fat column for our weights. There is what is known as a chain, and it's a piece of fatty interlocking meat along the front. It's smaller in the front than it is in the back. So here are my front chains. That's going to go into usable scrap. So for the usable scrap, it's anything that we would use for either a grind or to make stew meat, whatever the case is. And as long as the connective tissue isn't too heavy, it's perfectly suitable for that. And here's the rear chain, and that all comes off just like that. That is all usable scrap. Now this method of fabrication is very inefficient, because if I was just cutting steaks out of it, I may do very little trim on it and then just cut across. But to do the pavés, and there is quite a bit of scrap that's going to come off of this. And there's a little muscle on top of a piece of silver skin that we need to pull off. If the loins are big enough, we can use that as a steak. This one is just going to go into the scrap as well. So here we have unusable scrap. We've got fat, and this is all unusable scrap right here because it's got that heavy silver skin connective tissue. There's a little usable product on there. I probably could have done a better fabrication. There's some of this really dark looking meat in there, and that's from a stress hormone. You don't want to eat that. So this is unusable scrap. this is the fat, and this is the usable scrap. We'll get weights on that right now. So for the unusable scrap, fire up my scale, and for the unusable scrap, we have 1.05 pounds, or no, sorry, 10.5 ounces. I'm looking at it wrong. 10.5 ounces. For the fat, we have 1 pound, 8 ounces. 1.5 pounds. And then for the usable scrap, and we're going to have quite a significant amount of that. And remember, that's anything that you would grind or cut up for stew meat. That is 2 pounds, 8.5 ounces. All right. So, and these weights are not final because there may be more usable scrap. I just want to give you an overview of this. I've taken off all of the heavy connective tissue and heavy fat, and it's fairly clean on both sides. I could come and trim a little bit more of this, but all of this fat and any of this connective tissue is very shallow and superficial, so it would not interfere with any finished product. So the finished weight on this, and we don't even really need to record this because what we're interested in is usable product. This is 5 pounds, 13 ounces. But we're not going to record that, and we're not going to record the usable scrap at this point. I just wanted to show you the breakdown of what we lose from this product. So it's a significant amount. So the next thing we're going to do with this piece of meat is we're going to cut those pave steaks. And a pave is just a little lean square, like a paving stone. That's where the phrase comes from. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a midline cut lengthwise through this entire piece of meat, and then I'm going to fabricate my steaks. Now I'm going to have a thinner side and a thicker side, and I want to use my thinner side steaks, the skinnier ones, for the more well done orders, and then the thicker side for the less well done orders. And that's how I've always done it in my restaurant classes. So this has been split lengthwise. You'll see that one side is heavier and thicker than the other side. So this is the way I want to proceed with this fabrication. Is we want to average about between 4 and 6 ounce, so an average of a 5 ounce cut on this. And this takes some getting used to. Now, first thing I want to do is with this curved in here is I want to square that up. And that's why we're not going to record that usable scrap portion yet, because we're going to keep adding to it with any trim that we may have. Okay, so and fingers crossed that this is a good cut, right? And not too much, not too little. 4.7, pretty close. So keeping that as kind of my ruler, I'm going to come and make my next one, and my next one, and my next one. 4.3, I'm getting a little shy, so 4.8. 5.1, and so on until all of your steaks are cut. So remember, in keeping that average, it's a 5 ounce average. We're really close on all of these, and that's how we're going to proceed. Okay, so now we have our strip loin fabricated into our 5 ounce average pave steaks, and let's get a count on it. But more importantly, we're going to get a weight on this as well. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 steaks out of that. Okay, 18 steaks at a total of 5 pounds, 10.5 ounces. Okay, so with that done, the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to set this aside, and we are going to weigh our usable scrap. We've got the weights of the fat and the unusable scrap. So the last thing we need to do is get the usable scrap, and that is 2 pounds, 10.7 ounces. Next, we do the calculations.
All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and break down the strip loin itself into the price, how much you want to charge per your ounce. I'm sorry, how much you want to charge per your portion. Chef Rosser went ahead and broke it down for you. We're getting out of a total of 10.5 pounds, we're getting roughly 18 each at 5 ounces each. Okay, so you want to determine before you start butchering, how many ounces do I want to work with? Okay, so you can get a whole strip loin if you want. Kind of do the math, but take into consideration, you know, your fat, your unusable products, etc. Use unusable trim, excuse me. So what we got here from our usable product, we got 56.36. That is good, guys, but you're looking at, you know, your usable trim, unusable trim, usable trim, and your fat. Chances are those will get discarded from some people. If you're butchering it at your house, which is why you want to try to get as much usable product as possible, because you got to factor that in. Even though you're throwing it away, you're paying for it somewhere. So you might be thinking $3.99 a pound for your as purchased cost. Wow, that sounds like a great price. Well, let's break it down further. Let's find out how much we're actually paying for that portion, okay? So, usable product, we got that. And we're at 18 portions each at 5 ounces. Usable trim, 2 pounds, 10.7 ounces. That could be used for ground beef. And here we have a $2.99 price. That's an average price. That's what we got our ground beef last. $2.90 pound, that's a reasonable price, about 80-20. That's my preference to use, something like around the lines of 73-27. A little bit on the greasy side, okay? I won't buy that product anymore. So 80-20 is what I want to stick with, 80% lean, 20% fat. Unusable trim, and also your fat. If it's not a tendon of some sort, we're just talking about just wanting to use fat, something we can incorporate to make sausages. Guys, this is when you want to, you know, keep that product, use it. Okay? So here we go. We're gonna go ahead and find out how much it costs for that whole tenderloin. I'm sorry, that whole strip loin. Okay, we're looking at $3.99 a pound. Great. Is what it cost us to purchase the whole thing. As purchase poundage was 10.5. Multiply those two, gives you $41.90. Okay, so what you saw on your receipt was $41.90, not including tax. What we want to do, the easiest way to find it, 18 portions each. Remember, at 5 ounces. Divide 41 into 90. I'm sorry, 41.90 into 80 gives you $2.33. That is okay. $2.33. That's what we want to charge per portion. I might go ahead and take a step further to find out actually how much we should be charging per portion. Okay. So what you want to go ahead and do. Okay. Let's get our pound. 10.5 pounds. Multiply that by 16. Okay, and that gives you 168. We got our 168 from our usable. We're going to go ahead and get our usable trim and fat. Total these up, and we want to keep it in the ounce. That's going to equal 64.5. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get 64.5, which is from usable trim and fat. Divide that, pretending that we are getting rid of this, that we're not going to use it. Let's say we're going to toss it for whatever reason. Okay, 64.5 ounces. We're going to divide that by 168. Okay, and that gives me a total of 38%. From 38%, we're going to subtract that from 100, and that's going to give us 62%. 62% because we're talking about usable product. That 38%, that's our percentage of what we're getting rid of. It's still high. Okay, so our excuse me, our 62%. That's going to be incorporated into our 233. And how do we do that? We want to go ahead and divide. Remember, stick with your dollar sign first. Get 233. Divide that by 0.62 or 62%. And that's going to give you an end product or end total. Let's see if this one works. Of . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . Now, is that a big difference? Yes, it is. From 233, what it costs for the whole thing, if you weren't gonna trim it, keep it as is, to actually trimming it down, getting rid of your unusable trim and your fat. All right, so that's it. $376 is what we're gonna charge for one portion of 5 ounces. Great. All right, guys, so now what we're gonna talk about real quick, briefly, this is Bill right here, Bill the cow. Before we get into the strip loin itself, let's go ahead and jump towards the front forequarter of your cow itself, okay? Up here is where you're gonna find your chuck. Delicious, it's could be tender if it's cooked correctly. A lot of connective tissue. I would go ahead and sear it, braise it, a little bit of red wine or beer if you'd like. Okay, that would be the front forequarter. Total bones, you're gonna have a total of 13 bones in a cow. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, from 1 through 5 is your chuck area. 6 on is where you have your ribeye. Okay, so your ribeye, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From here on is where you have your ribeye. Okay, you have your short plate right down here. Brisket in that area, flank steak in this area, delicious cuts. And after your ribeye, you're gonna have your New York strip. New York strip, also your strip loin. You have your ribeye loin. Okay, so if you're wanting to buy the whole thing, remember, make sure you say that. Strip loin, ribeye loin. In this case, strip loin, that, with the T-bone, has your tenderloin, the most tender cut you will get of all, okay? Why? Because that's the muscle that never moves, okay? So when you're wanting to go to the butcher, or anywhere for that matter, at a certain store that serves, sells steaks, ask yourself, do you want something with marbling, or do you want something that's lean, but extremely tender, okay? You wanna go marbling, go with the ribeye. Something super tender that you can cut at well done with a butter knife, go ahead and get yourself a tenderloin. A little bit more pricey, okay? So when you're looking at it, and I'm gonna try my best to draw a picture for you, I messed it up in my other class. Please don't laugh at me. So looking at the cow itself, dead on, making eye contact, looking into his soul, from here on in, that's what you're gonna see. This is gonna be the right side, you're gonna have your spinal cord area, and you're gonna have the same thing on this side, okay? I'm not an artist, that's why I became a chef, okay? Your New York strips on this side, and you have your tenderloins on this side. Now, they descend in size. Roughly, you're gonna get, for a porterhouse, you're gonna get about 2 delicious cuts out of a whole cow, okay? So in total, you would have 4, 2 on one side, 2 on the other. The others would be your T-bone. Porterhouse is bigger because the fillet, your T-bone is a little bit smaller. So when you're buying porterhouse or T-bone, look at the cuts. My preference, everybody wants to go with more meat, fine, take it. My preference, because it's the best cut you can get in my opinion, would be your tenderloin, okay? It's the best of both worlds.
Thanks for watching the Chef Share videos. If you have ideas about videos that you'd like to see in the future, please let your chef instructors know or email us directly. Chef?
Thank you guys for viewing, we appreciate it. But like Chef Foster said, give us your feedback. We'd like to know other videos you would like to see. This is the first of many to come, so thank you very much.
Hi, Chef Foster here. If you like this video, please leave us a comment, subscribe, and click for notifications so you don't miss out on our latest videos. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you